Good morning. I'm Carlos Fernandez, Policy Analyst at the Vegas Chamber. I'd like to thank you all for tuning in to the Nevada Commercial Rental Assistance Grant Program with State Treasurer Zach Conine, Governor's Office of Economic Development Executive Director Michael Brown, Business Development Manager for GoEd Tatiana Vukovic, and the Vegas Chamber President and CEO, Mayor Beth Sewald. Before we get started, I want to take a moment to explain some features of this call. In order to preserve high sound quality, we'll be muting everyone on the call besides the presenter to make it easier for everyone to hear. If you'd like to ask a question, there are a few ways you could do so. If you're joining this call on the web or through the mobile app, you can ask a question by using the chat feature on the interface. We'll ask you a question on your behalf. You can also ask a question by clicking the hand raise button on the interface. We'll call your name and unmute your line so you can ask your question. Once you have asked your question, we'll remute your line so that everyone on the call can hear the answer. In order to preserve time, we ask that you please keep questions brief, and we'll be taking all questions at the end of the call. Now, please welcome the Vegas Chamber President and CEO, Mayor Beth Sewald.
Thank you so much, Carlos, and thank you everybody for joining us today as we partner with the Nevada Business Information Network to discuss the Commercial Rental Assistance Grant Program, also known as the CRAG program for short, and we're going to hear a whole lot more about that in just a few minutes. I want to thank our guests. Of course, we're going to introduce them as well. Today's webinar is intended to provide you with the latest information about this new program, how businesses can take advantage of it, and we'll talk about the new eligibility criteria that's also associated with it. But this is a program definitely intended to help Nevada businesses. And so hopefully this will be critical information that you can use today that will potentially assist hundreds of Nevada businesses with the cost of commercial rent. Before I get to introducing our guest speakers today, I want to let you know about a couple of really important webinars that we have coming up today. I also want to thank our sponsors, SCE Federal Credit Union and the UNLV Executive MBA program. We so appreciate their support because without them, we would not be able to bring you the timely information like we have been over the last few months that has been so incredibly important. A couple of events coming up. We're excited to announce that the Vegas Chamber and the LVGEA are teaming up once again for our joint Washington, D.C. fly-in. This year it's going to, we're going to be bringing D.C. to V.C., as we like to say, D.C. to LV. That's going to happen on September 14th through the 17th. Of course, our typical series of meetings with decision makers and policy leaders on Capitol Hill. Now more than ever, it's so important that we have a united voice and that we're working together to rebuild our community and our economy. So you can register for the Washington, D.C. fly-in, the virtual version at vegaschamber.com. Also, this coming Friday, September 4th from 8 to 9 a.m., we'll be hosting a webinar with the Clark County School District Superintendent, Dr. Jesus Jara. He's going to talk to us about distance learning for students. To get more information on that, you can also log on to our website at vegaschamber.com. And then next Tuesday, September 8th, from 11:30 to 12:30, you're not going to want to miss this, we'll be hosting a webinar with the State of Nevada's Labor Commissioner, Shannon Chambers. Commissioner Chambers is going to share important guidelines for us on a statewide level and also give us some updates on federal requirements in regard to sick leave for employees and then guidelines that have been issued by the state as well. All right, so now let's get to the reason we are all here today. Again, I want to thank you all for joining us and thank you to our guests today. We have with us, it is my pleasure to introduce Nevada State Treasurer Zach Conine. Thank you, Zach, for being with us today. Good to see you. Also, we have Michael Brown, the Executive Director of the Nevada Governor's Office of Economic Development, or GoEd. Michael, thank you as well for being with us. And then we also have Tatiana Vukovic, Business Development Director of the Nevada Governor's Office of Economic Development. And as they said earlier, she's the one who's here to answer the tough questions. So Tatiana, thank you in advance for being with us today. So with that, Director Brown, I'd like to start with you, if you wouldn't mind, to give us sort of an overview of the new CRAG program.
Yes, so Congress authorized what are called CARES Act dollars to help state and local governments deal with the pandemic. And the first priority when Nevada got its allocation of that was kind of reimbursing the costs that we had expended in March and April, reimbursing counties and local governments, and then standing up a strong public health response. And you see all the testing programs that are underway right now. Much of that has come through CARES Act dollar funding. And then finally, these dollars were also also there to assist with economic development and renewal. But our first priority in those more challenging months was the public health response and making sure that we had that, because our recovery will occur when people have confidence in public health and return to Las Vegas for conventions and for longer stays rather than just kind of the weekend travelers. And so, you know, the public health response is very important. But we worked with a group of economic development directors across the country, and a shout out to my dear colleague Val in Utah, who came up with, was the originator of this program, which is designed, it's a two-for program. It's designed to help the person who has the lease, and it's designed to help the landlord who has leased his building to the applicant. And so it's been tested around the country, and we've refined it and are rolling it out here. We initially rolled it out last week for businesses that might not have qualified for PPP or might not have had capacity to file for PPP, and we ran that round of applications, and now we're moving into the second phase. We also are designing a part B, which will provide more direct assistance to businesses, and Mary Beth, look forward to having a follow-up webinar on that. I hope to finalize the details and have that out on the street within a week. But we could not have done this without the wonderful staff at GOED and in the Treasurer's office, and Zach Conine, who is the state treasurer and a dear friend, has just been a real valuable asset in putting this program together mechanically so that it all works, and contracting with the firms and making sure that we make this as seamless as possible for the applicants, and then also making sure we stay in compliance. These are federal dollars, and so we need to stay in compliance with federal requirements. And so we've enjoyed a strong partnership with Treasurer Conine, and I'd like to turn to him to elaborate more directly on the program.
Thanks, Director Brown. I appreciate it. And thanks, as always, to the Vegas Chamber for helping to highlight programs like this that are here to help Nevadans. So Director Brown laid it out exactly right. This is a program for businesses under 50 employees who have been impacted by the pandemic. We're looking at pandemic impact based on revenue decrease. So if you're lower than 30% of your revenue this year compared to last year, you are going to be eligible for this program. There's a couple of other eligibility requirements, like having less than 50 employees, having a current active lease, not having tax liens against you, having a business license, some of the basic stuff. And of course, your business has to be legal at the federal level. So unfortunately, that keeps out cannabis. But outside of that, everyone, for-profit, not-for-profit, can apply to this program. As Director Brown said, we increased the eligibility last week to include all businesses that took PPP. We still had a little bit more than half of the $20 million available going into the beginning of this week. And we are going to continue to prioritize those businesses that fit into the groups that typically are historically disadvantaged. So to that end, businesses that are considered DBEs under the Nevada Revised Statute, so that would be businesses owned by women, minorities, or veterans, go towards the front of the line, along with nonprofits. And businesses that have had a larger revenue increase will go before businesses that had a smaller revenue increase. But we expect that everybody who applies to the program, based on the trending, probably has a pretty good chance of getting funds. The application, which is available on GOED's website, which is goed.nv.gov. It's the first link when you scroll down a little bit, the Commercial Rent Assistance Grant Program. It takes about a minute to fill out. If you're having technical issues, don't hesitate to reach out to Zoom Grants, who's the technical provider, or if you've got eligibility questions, you can certainly reach out to either GOED's office or our office. But the goal is, we believe that a majority of Nevada businesses who have leases should be able to take advantage of this program. An important point, you don't actually need to be back on your mortgage, or on your rent. In the residential program, you do, because we need to be able to show that there was a COVID involvement. But because we're going to look at your revenue, if you're down by more than 30% and it's due to COVID, that's all the proof we need. So we can actually prepay rent up to $10,000 for businesses who maybe made the decision to pay their rent but have other vendors that they're behind on or need help with payroll or really anything else. To Director Brown's point, there's another program coming up behind this, but we encourage people to apply for this and for that. The goal is to get this federal money out the door and in the hands of businesses so they can keep doing what they always do, which is lead the way on our economic recovery, make sure people stay employed, and make sure that our Nevada gets back to where it needs to be as soon as possible. Happy to answer any questions, but again, just thanks to the Chamber for putting this on, and thanks to Director Brown for being such a great partner as we go through these relatively confusing times.
Well, and thank you both. Thank you all for all your work on this, because our members are in desperate need of financial assistance like this. And Treasurer Conine, you mentioned that nonprofits are eligible for this. We know that with the PPP, nonprofit C6s were not eligible for that. Are C6s and C3s eligible for this program?
Yes, C6s, C3s, C5s, and basically all the Cs except for some of the political action committees that are in the 16s or 17s, because that's a federal issue. But outside of that, we encourage everybody to apply. And if you're not sure, please apply so that we can work with you and get that sorted. Now, I see a question from Jocelyn Ross, Joylyn Ross, excuse me, Miss Ross. About running our businesses from our home. So we need a commercial lease in place. And that's just from a federal guidance perspective. So if you have a home-based business that has a commercial lease, then you're good to go. Please apply. If you have a home-based business that doesn't, unfortunately, this program won't be for you. But we believe the next program coming up, you'll be eligible for.
Okay, great. And then we're going to answer a lot more questions too, but Tatiana, did you have anything else you wanted to add before we move on to more questions? Anything we may have missed so far?
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I think the State Nevada Treasurer covered almost all points. I just want to say that this is a great program, and it has been a great work between our office and Treasurer's office, and we are just hoping that we will be able to assist as many businesses as possible. So
I think we have Kirsten from the Treasurer's Office also on the call.
And Kirsten's been great. She doesn't like talking on these things too much, but she's been fantastic, as has the rest of the staff. We're lucky to have some really dedicated public service employees working on things like this. I see some questions in the Q&A, but Mary Beth, we'll turn it over to you. Direct us.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a couple of questions. Carlos, do we have a person who wants to ask their question in person, or are we going to go through the chat box on this?
Yes, I'll unmute now. We have Trin Dang, who is wanting to ask a question.
Okay, perfect. Welcome.
Trin, please unmute your line.
All right. Trin, if you can hear us, unmute your line. We'd love to hear your question. Okay. We do have another question. Maybe we can get back to Trin in just a moment. This question says, as a nonprofit, we just found out we will not be receiving funding for the new fiscal year. Therefore, our revenue loss will not be reflected until October. Are we still eligible to apply?
So I'd encourage, please reach out through the website, put an application in, and then our vendor and our office will work with you to figure out the best way to get that done. I think that's a reasonable problem to have, and we'd love to find a solution for you.
Okay, perfect. And then another question is there a time frame that a business has to have been open to be eligible?
Yep, so 6 months prior to the beginning of the pandemic, which quote unquote is March 1st. So a business needs to have been open since then with a business license. I see there's a question about started under a new name and as a nonprofit in April, could they apply? I definitely suggest reaching out, filling out the application, and then we can work through the specifics there. Again, our goal is to get to yes. So as long as a business, we can, figure out a way to do that, we want to make sure we do.
Okay, very good. And I think you may have just sort of answered this, but I want to clarify just because I got another question about this. This person says they own several businesses in the state of Nevada, and should they submit an application for each location, or are they only allowed to apply for one business?
Assuming that each business has its own business license and meets the other eligibility, we encourage them to apply for each business.
Okay. All right, very good. And if they received grant assistance from local governments because of COVID-19, does that necessarily make a person ineligible? They can still apply, if I understood before what you said.
That's correct. We encourage everybody to apply, and we'll work through the eligibility requirements with them. That's a shift. So we're still going to prioritize businesses who haven't had access to these other funds. but everybody should get in the queue. The other benefit is if we run out of this money, we can then go back and try to get additional funds to clear up the rest of the queue.
Yeah, and there are some similar programs rolling out by counties and by localities around the state, and so those programs are also going live. 2 of them went live yesterday out in the rural counties. One operational thing, I've been coaching a few people through it on their applications. I have found that Google Chrome worked better than trying to do it on Safari. So if you're a Mac user, download Google Chrome and try to do it on that.
Okay, and then Director Brown, you just brought up some other other initiatives and other programs that are available. Can they all be found on the website goed.nv.gov?
You know, I think that some of them have just rolled out. Some of them, when you open up your account to make this application, you'll see some of them there. But we can go forward and try to link all those together.
Okay.
See them on the GoEd site.
Right. Okay. Then another question I just got is about how are full-time employees calculated in this equation?
If I may kind of jump into this one. So on our website, we do have frequently asked questions. And as a part of these frequently asked questions, we do have explanation and actual calculations of full-time employees. So I would refer to our website, frequently asked questions, and then you can find information there.
Okay.
In a real broad sense, it's the 30-hour-a-week criteria that is typically used, but Tatiana's right. There's some fantastic resources on the FAQ part when you start getting into the detailed side. Okay,
good. That's good to know. Let's try to go back to Trin Dang again and see if we can, if you can unmute your line. We'd love to hear your question. Okay, still having some technical issues there, I think.
My anticipation is off the charts, though. I just want to.
I know, mine too now. All right, we will definitely get back to Trin if we can have them ask their question. I'd love to know what it is. Now we're all waiting on that one. Another question is my landlord required to waive an eviction?
It's a really great point. Yes. So the goal here from a policy perspective is, of course, to make sure that this money is going to businesses that are going to stay open as opposed to paying back rent and then the business closes the next day. So part of the agreement from a landlord perspective is in exchange for this $10,000, they're agreeing to stop any currently pending evictions and not start new ones for 90 days. For the most part, we found that landlords are amenable to this. We've certainly had a couple who said, no, this isn't a tenant that I'm going to have long term, and that's okay. From a policy perspective, that money's not for them.
Okay. All right.
I see Trin's question has been answered.
I know. So we can all rest easy now.
I do encourage applicants to let their landlords know that they're starting this process, because you will have to get a notarized document from the landlord. And so I've encouraged the people that I've coached to let their landlords know that they're going into this process.
Very good point, Director Brown. Really good point. There's another question in the chat, Treasurer Conine, if you see that. For clarity, if we run our businesses from our home and chose to pay our rent, what program do we apply for in order to get our rent paid in advance up to $10,000?
So if it's a home-based business, you might not be eligible for CRAG, depending on how it's all structured. Definitely encourage people to reach out through the program. And then to Director Brown's point, the next program, which should launch later on in September, home-based businesses we expect will be able to apply directly. So hopefully
there are smaller amounts available for just general business assistance. I've noticed from some of the local governments. I don't know what their terms and conditions are, but you might check with Las Vegas or Clark County.
Mm-hmm. And certainly everybody should feel free to reach out to our office at the Treasurer's office. You can just email ask@nevadatreasurer.gov. That's just ask@nevadatreasurer.gov. And we're getting plenty of people reaching out just to figure out where services are. We're happy to send you any information we have about any of the programs, whether or not they're in our office. I do see one question that came in from Dylan. What factors determine the awarded amount? So based on the changes to the eligibility, every eligible business will receive $10,000 flat. The only difference to that would be if your rent amount during the affected period is less than that. Like, let's say you've had a revenue decline for 3 months and your rent's only $1,000 a month, then you'd be limited to that $3,000. But the goal is to get $10,000 out the door to every business, except if their rent is lower than that.
Okay, and so is there a prioritization process with the applications then, or how does that work?
There is. So the goal from a policy perspective was to make sure that businesses who hadn't had access to other funds or were historically disadvantaged would have access to those funds first. So as all the applications come in, they're going through the screening process. But if we run out of funds, the fund to order that will be paid out are businesses that are DBEs, so owned by women, minorities, or veterans. We've added individuals who have disabilities and businesses that are nonprofits. They'll go first. So more than 50% revenue decline, that business goes first. Then other businesses with greater than 50%, then DBEs 40 to 50, then non-DBEs 40 to 50, then DBEs 30 to 40, then non-DBEs 30 to 40. And the last group are DBEs and non-DBEs who've taken more than $5,000 in PPP. Now, I can tell you based on where the funding is right now, it is likely that everybody who applies will get funding. But on the off chance that we run into we have fewer resources than we have applications, the older businesses that were founded first, that's the tiebreaker. So a business that's been open for 10 years will have more access or more likelihood of getting funds than a business that's been open for 5 years. But again, I do not expect that will be a problem. It'd be a good problem to have. So please, definitely apply. Don't self-select out of this program. What we found a lot with some of these programs is folks read it, they look at it quickly. I don't think that's for me. And then they just move on. We encourage you. It doesn't take that much time. Please apply. And we can figure out either if you're applicable for this program or if you're not, how we can connect you with one of the other programs that you might be eligible for.
So you really want to get this money out.
Yes, we do. And, the legislature, when they considered this program, encouraged us also to make it as broad as possible. And so credit should also go to members of the legislature that wanted it as broad as conceivable. The other thing I would say is that when you open up this, you're going to see a long list of things that need to be provided. Those do not have to be provided at the day of application. Go ahead, complete the initial application, get that into the system. Then you can go back and scan the materials and put them into your application. So you don't have to have the whole package the day you make application.
Oh,
that's right. That's right. We just want to make sure that first application gets in by 5 p.m. this coming Monday, but it really should not take that long. If it's taking more than like 10 minutes, please feel free to reach out and we can walk you through it.
Okay. Wow, you guys are really going out of your way to make this easy. But the deadline again is this Monday at 5 p.m. The holiday, I guess, right? Labor Day?
Yeah. Yeah, no holidays and pandemics, ma'am.
Right, exactly. Understood.
It's September 8th, 5 p.m.
Okay, perfect. And
One extra day.
All right, see? Some people get holidays. Look at that.
There we go. Okay, September 8th. We'll be sure to get this on our website as well. We've had a couple of folks ask for these website addresses again. One was goed.nv.gov. The other is ask@nevadatreasurer.gov, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And Nevada is spelled out, not NV. Okay, very good. I'm anticipating, based on your previous answers, that the answer to this question is going to be just one word, yes, but I'll read it anyway because I want to make sure that we cover everything. If a business received PPP and the PPP has been depleted and the business is still 3 months behind on rent, could this business still be eligible for the GoEd funding?
Yes. And because I'm a politician and have never said a one-word answer, not only could that business be eligible, but let's say the business has used PPP and is not 3 months behind on rent. You can get this money and pay for future rent, which will allow you to catch up on other expenses.
Wow. That's amazing.
You don't, and this is important, you do not have to be in arrears on your rent. You can get this support for future rent if you've had that revenue decline. Because we know that some small businesses prioritize paying rent, some businesses prioritize, hopefully every business prioritize paying their employees, but some prioritized rent, some prioritized suppliers, some prioritized something else, right? And so we want to make sure that every business who had that revenue decline and was impacted by COVID-19 can get access to these funds.
And on that note, just to clarify again, I think you said this at the beginning of our call today. If a business has prepaid their rent, they're still eligible as well?
Yes.
Right. Excellent. Okay. Very good. Any other points that any of the three of you would like to bring up? You've been so thorough and so good today at answering all these questions. I just really appreciate your time, but certainly if we've missed anything or if you want to reiterate anything, I want to make sure you have the opportunity to do so.
I just want to thank you so much for having us, and certainly encourage all businesses to apply, to tell your neighbors to apply. If you know you're in the chamber and your neighbor's not, might be a good opportunity to walk next door or to give them a ring and tell them to apply. And if there are any landlords on here, commercial landlords, definitely encourage your businesses to apply. You know, you might have access to information that they don't have, and this could be a source of funding that would help both you and them. So really, we want to make sure this money gets out the door. It is open, Trin, to answer your question, to all of Nevada. If you have a Nevada business license, that's the thing that matters. So all of Nevada. So if you've got friends up in West Wendover or Jigs or anywhere else, make sure to let them know so that they can apply.
Jigs?
Jigs. There's one business there. It's a bar. It's open for, I think, 7 hours a day for the mining community. Not a lot of voters, though.
You know, I'll just say, you know, we're trying to assist in these very challenging and uncertain times. You know, there will come a natural strength and resilience when we come out of this pandemic. You know, those that have faced this kind of challenge and come through it will emerge stronger. And I have full confidence that Nevada will bounce back. We just need to, you know, make sure that we're complying with public health obligations and wearing masks and doing those kinds of things. But, you know, the 1920s were a robust period in American history after the 1918 pandemic. And I have no doubt that the years ahead will be very robust years once we clear this hurdle.
Here, here.
Here, here. Tatiana, any final words from you? Anything we didn't cover that you'd like to reiterate or emphasize?
Again, to tell everybody to apply for this program. And it's a great team that works on this, and they help with every single application individually. They put so much effort into helping businesses and find a way to assist them. So encourage everybody to apply.
Well, we definitely will. At the Vegas Chamber, we do everything we possibly can to get information like this out to our members and to the public in general. They don't have to be a member to access this information on our website. We just want to make sure that we get the best information to everybody we possibly can. So once again, I want to thank you all so much for joining us today. Director Michael Brown, Executive Director of GoEd, Zach Conine, Nevada State Treasurer, and of course, Tatiana Vukovic. Thank you all so much for answering our questions today and for making this program available in the first place. Thank you all so much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.